Hello everyone, today we will be starting our May webinar series titled Mind Matters, Building Resilience and Emotional Well-Being with our prevention consultant, Briana Ampadu. She will be presenting the topic, Protecting Your Peace, How to Let Go of What You Can't Control. So some information about her, Briana Ampadu is a prevention consultant at Prevention Links, where she serves the NJ4S Union Hub. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Public Health and Master of Public Health, both with concentrations in community health education. She's passionate about educating the community on various topics, and she has a particular interest in sex education and is dedicated to advancing the cause of promoting safe and healthy lifestyles. In her free time, she enjoys cooking, photography, and actively participating in community activities. So without further ado, I will let her take over.
Thank you so much for that intro, Grace. And like she mentioned, just to reiterate, my name is Briana, and we'll be talking about protecting your peace. This is such an important topic because in our lives, we tend to try to control everything. And there's just certain things that we cannot control. So why we try to control everything? So control is something that we try to do because of the fear of uncertainty. So because we may not know how an outcome may proceed or like how it comes out, we want to be able to control that. So this can look like, for example, if there is an exam that you have to do and that you're constantly studying for, you may want to control that and try to constantly keep asking your professor or your teacher, like, oh my gosh, what's my grade, this and that, because you can't control that outcome in that sense. You have to wait until they grade your exam and then hand it back, put it through the portal, things like that. Need for stability. When it comes to control, it's all about stability as well. Sometimes we just want to be able to have that stable lifestyle. So we want to control that in any way that we can. Past experiences, if you've had experiences that influence how you make certain decisions now, that is something that you will definitely want to control and to continue to control. And perfectionism. And I feel like this is something that is a good and bad thing. Or it could be not a good and bad, but maybe like a positive and negative aspect depending on how you look at it. So perfectionism, I believe that I'm a perfectionist. I like to make sure everything is good to the eye, good, and all of that as well. So that may be something that you want to control. So like making sure, for example, if you're in like a group project and somebody's slideshow or part in their group project isn't up to your standards, you're going to try to have that perfectionism when it comes to that. And that's something you can't control, which we'll get into. You can't control how other people act, talk, their opinions. You can't control that. But yeah. So the cost over control. So trying to control everything can lead to anxiety and stress. You're more stressed out about it. You're constantly thinking about whatever it may be. So if this looks like a group project, you're constantly thinking about like your teammates and what they're doing is giving you anxiety, just maybe showing up to that class, maybe even just looking at that presentation because of the fact that you want to control and constantly just make sure everything is good. Emotional exhaustion, so you will constantly be tired because you're putting all of this weight on you to control all of these things. Frustration, because like I said, when it comes to control with others, you may be wanting to control them and you'll get frustrated because they may not listen to what you're trying to control or might even tell you that you're controlling too much. And this can also tie into having a relationship strain with partners, classmates, colleagues, even like romantic partners and friendships, things like that. What you can control, so you can control your thoughts. All of your thoughts are yours. No one can control you when it comes to that. So your opinions matter, and you have that ability to do so. You can control your actions. Your actions are what makes you you and how you respond to things. And that's where your power is actually in. So what you can control in that aspect. Your reactions, how you react to certain scenarios, certain situations, things like that, your effort, and your boundaries. And you can control your boundaries and you should stand on your boundaries. So if you have certain boundaries, such as you don't like being touched or you don't like your hair being touched, you have the control and the right to stand on that boundary and just tell whoever is crossing it no. And just also expressing that you have these boundaries. And overall, this is where your energy should go, into what you can control and not into what you cannot control. So now we're going to get into the circle of control just for my visual learners on here. Sorry about that. So this diagram just shows the inner circle, which is the portion you can control, which is in the middle. This is what you have, your thoughts, your opinions, things like that, what we just discussed. The influence is the medium-sized circle, and this is what you can influence in terms of like yourself and maybe certain situations you can influence. So it could be like maybe if you and a friend are debating about food to get, you can influence in a way to suggest that you can get certain, either come to a compromise or get a certain meal that would both satisfy you. And then the outer corner is what we can't control. So this looks like controlling people's actions, controlling how they speak, controlling how they view certain statements or opinions. So this helps train your brain to start separating these automatically within real life. So when you have the control, you know your control circle is the smaller circle that you can do. And what you cannot control is that outer circle, which you. So emotional flexibility. This looks like being able to adapt to situations. This also looks like accepting emotions. So when it comes to these situations, you are flexible enough to be okay with letting the control go, or like even what the video said, setting it free, and then accepting the emotions that follow with that. So sometimes if you aren't in control of a situation, like your emotions may play a part, you may be upset, but being able to accept and acknowledge those emotions will help you let go of the control. And then let go instead of resist. So letting go will set you free, like it said in the video. So once you let go of control, you will be less likely to have anxiety or stress, and you will have other people to fall back on when it comes to this as well, like your family, your friends, and people like that. Just letting go and just not having that resistance, especially when it comes to certain situations, so that they know like you are flexible and you yourself know that you're emotionally flexible for this as well. So some signs you are holding on too tight, and might be struggling with letting go, is overthinking constantly. I think when we are in a space where we have time to just be with ourselves and think about our day, sometimes we may overthink about certain situations and be in our heads like, oh my gosh, should I have said this? Should I have done this better? What could I have done to control the situation? Things like that. And it won't necessarily help when it comes to letting go, right? It's going to keep us in a position where we have to constantly think and stress about the control that we cannot control ourselves. And like I said, that also ties into replaying the situations over and over. I feel like a lot of people will sometimes be in the shower just thinking like, oh my gosh, I should have said this, I should have done this. But what you said and done in that situation was the right thing for you at that moment to do. So replaying the situation won't bring the situation back. So just keeping in mind that overall, like, you have to let go and be free from that as well. And then also try to fix others. So like I said in the earlier slide, we do not have the control or ability to tell people what to do or how to do whatever they may be doing within their lives. So it's only so much you can do. You can advise people, but you can't fix them. If someone doesn't want to be fixed, they won't be fixed. So keep that in mind when it comes to your relationships and how you maneuver around people. Try not to fix them, because then it becomes a burden on yourself. And that's also how you may struggle to let go of that control and then feeling stuck or frustrated. So overall awareness of all of these things is the first step to letting go. So how to let go? So practice acceptance, like I said, just making sure that you are aware of those things. So sometimes in the sense of me, I feel as though like when I start to overthink or try to control a situation, I automatically kind of think like, oh, I can't control that. I have to let it go and just keep it as that. Shift your focus. So this could also look like shifting your focus back to yourself, thinking about like what you can do and what you can control. So that whole diagram that I showed earlier, that inner circle, you have to go back to it and just think like, what can I control within my circle? And then the setting boundaries, reframing your thoughts. So just making sure that you're grounding yourself in the moment, and that also plays into it, right? So grounding yourself and also reframing your thoughts play a part within each other, because once you ground yourself, you can reframe those thoughts, think positive thoughts, and think about those things that you can control and those things that you cannot control. Okay, so protecting your peace daily. I love this motto. I believe everyone should be protecting their peace. And of course, protecting your peace may even be more than what I'm going to discuss, but these are just some things to protect your peace daily. So limit negativity. So just making sure that if you are in a predicament where you feel as though it's becoming a lot of negative emotions or negative thoughts, just making sure you take the time to just communicate and say like, hey, I need a second right now, and then I'll come back to talking to you. Take a social media break. And I stand beside this because I believe sometimes social media could be very overwhelming. And I started practicing this during COVID, actually, just taking that break from social media. And there's a lot going on. So just making sure that you take certain breaks. If you're on an app, for example, maybe if you're on Instagram too much, or maybe even TikTok too much, just limiting your time with that. So this could look like deactivating your page, or even setting, I know iPhones have, or Apple has the timer where you would have to reach a certain amount on your social media app, and it won't let you go back on until like the next day, or like whatever time you set for it. There's also other apps that also play into this. So maybe if you really want to stay active during the day, there are apps that will set a timer or have a lock on it until you, I don't know, like walk 500 steps for that time before it would unlock. So things like that, just to make sure you're protecting your peace, staying active, staying off of social media, things like that. Rest and recharge. I feel like, especially in this day and age, a lot of us aren't getting as much rest as we should. So just making sure when you are resting, you are staying away from social media, you're staying away from your phone, and actually sleeping or just meditating or grounding yourself so you can actually recharge and feel that energy recharge. And then choose your battles. This goes into the limit negativity. I believe that there's just certain battles that you really can't control, and there's certain battles that you can control. So choose those wisely and protect your peace with that. Letting go / giving up. So a lot of people think letting go means giving up, but it doesn't. This just means you're choosing your peace, you're protecting your energy, and you're focusing on what matters. And that is completely fine. You have to be able to do this for yourself and choose yourself first when it comes to choosing your peace and letting go of those things that you can't control. Like I said, and I'm gonna probably keep reiterating this until the end of this presentation, but that influence circle that we looked at earlier, that middle part is what you can control. So focus on what matters to you and protecting that energy within that circle. In closing, I just want you guys to take this quote with you. So, in a noisy world, protecting your peace is very essential, especially, like I said, we're constantly moving, we're constantly doing things. So, just having that time to actually protect your peace and stand by your boundaries and just making sure you have the control of what you can control. And during this time, too, I want you to think back to the question that was asked in the beginning of the slideshow and see if there are ways that you could protect your peace with the things that are stressing you. And if those things that are stressing you are within your control or not in your control. So just remember that not everything is within your control, and that's okay. What matters is how you respond. Letting go can actually reduce stress and help you feel more grounded and at peace. So peace begins when expectations end. And I want you to take this quote for your week and just see how you can manage or let go of your control and have the peace within yourself. So thank you all for your time and energy today. I hope you're leaving with something you can actually apply to your life and make those changes. So thank you so much. And
thank you very much, Briana, for a very engaging presentation, and thank you to everyone else for tuning in. Our next presentation for May is called Power of Emotional Intelligence, which will be on May 28th at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. So make sure to stay tuned for that if you can. If you enjoyed our presentation, you want to keep up with us, just follow us on our social media at NJ4S Union. Or if you want to contact us about programming, you can email us at NJ4S Union at preventionlinks.org. Thank you again for joining us and have a great day.